I forget how I started that.
Thank you for doing the interview, you said.
Oh yeah, thank you. I question why I bought it sometimes too, but I can tell you the number one reason why we bought this building strictly has to do with the history. You walk into this building and it is truly something to behold. I can vividly remember the first time going through this space and it took my breath away. I didn't even know what we were really working with. I didn't know what we were looking at until we got all the way up to the penthouse, until we got to the roof, and I stepped outside and the warm summer breeze hit me and the green leaves were everywhere and the river was flowing and you could see the traffic on Claremont and you could see the university and Banbury Place and the downtown and you could see the water towers in Altoona. It took my breath away to think that something so beautiful existed and nobody knew about it. So our goals are pretty simple here. We get asked this quite a bit. What are you really going to do with it? Well, we're really going to turn this into a huge property that is conducive for a community. It is a big property to begin with, first of all. It's a little over 10 acres, and of that, very little of it's currently developed. So what we're looking at doing is building a community-like format inside of an already great community. So Mount Washington, as it's currently known, is going to have multiple buildings, whether it be the remodel of the big building or the supportive new infrastructure we're going to be putting in the area. Those buildings are going to support this mindset that community first focus. So we'll have a nice playground area, we'll have a big front yard for everybody to enjoy. We're going to definitely be putting sidewalks in. We're definitely going to be putting park benches in because it's important that we slow down and just breathe and relax and communicate again like a community. Yeah, the smaller building. I get asked that a lot as well. It was built in 1949. It was part of what was known as the Annex. It was built after the fire on Christmas morning in 1948, and it served its purpose. It really has been through a lot, and I think now we need to look at what is the best way to use that space. The small building, when we start to look at it from a cost perspective, it quickly gets out of hand when you try to compare it to the historical significance. The big building is, in my opinion, historically significant. The little building, not so much. So we're actually looking at demoing the smaller building, and then we'll probably put in a newer, bigger, more modern building with some underground parking so that we can kind of keep as much green space as we can, but still open up to even more people and more opportunities in Shawtown. So the penthouse is a really unique spot in this building. It's labeled the penthouse, but when it was really built, it was built for the polio patients and the tuberculosis patients. A lot of people don't realize that sanatoriums were built as basically specialized hospitals for these patients. And what that was really meant for was a quiet space where they could get good nutrition. And the penthouse, obviously with its 360-degree windows, was the space where they could go and get sunlight, which was believed to possibly be a cure for polio and tuberculosis. Obviously we know now in modern days that that's not the case, but what that has left us with is a really beautiful area that can be used from a recreational standpoint. So even though the penthouse was originally designed for sunlight for these patients, it's now going to see a new life as a restaurant for all to enjoy. Yes, the timeline. I get asked about the timeline. When's this going to be done? I can tell you that we have a goal. The tentative goal is to say we want to have rentable space in the summer of 2022. It's pretty close to where we're currently at. We're looking at about 16 to 18 months. But I think that we've got a good team. I think they're definitely prepared to look at that and make it a realistic goal. There's a lot of new construction that's going to be going on, and not all of it has to take place before that time frame. So we're going to be looking at ways that we can extend this out, not disrupt the community that we're in. Shawtown's an awesome neighborhood for the fact that it's a lot of single family homes. And that means that the people that live there are used to it being quiet during the night, quiet on the weekends. And I don't want to take away from that. That's really important to me to say that, hey, I know we got to do construction. I know we have a lot to do, but I really don't want to disrupt the neighborhood. I don't want to mess with the flow of Shawtown. I just want to bring new elements into it. Patient's records. Yeah, so very, very weird circumstance, right? So I go into the building in August, I see a room, in fact, I see 2.5 rooms full of patient records. And I was a little taken back. I was pretty shocked to see that there have been a lot of vandals inside the building, obviously. But the fact that some of them were siphoning through and rifling through, former residents' records was just, it was too much for me to take. So we did our best to secure them in the short term. And then when we had our neighborhood clean out day, then we had a couple people who are residents of the community that recognized the violations that were in just having those records present. So we went ahead and destroyed any of the medical records that were left in the building. They had no significance left for me. They had no significance for anybody that was in the neighborhood. There was no reason anybody's eyes should have been exposed to that. So we went ahead and discarded of them all. The amenities that we're looking at putting in this building are for our residents, but they're for the residents in general. They're not just for the people that live at Mount Washington or any of the new buildings that we build. It's for the neighborhood. It's for Shawtown. It's for the people of Eau Claire to go and utilize. My vision, what I've seen from day one in my mind, is that we have a restaurant that is perched halfway up of a hill in Eau Claire that overlooks all of the city. And it's on top of a 65, foot tall building for the most part. And it would be a shame if we didn't allow that amenity to be taken in by more than just our residents. Likewise, we're going to have a Shawtown community room. We're literally looking at an almost 40-foot section of building that we're going to dedicate to putting in a community room for activities. If there are Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, any of those clubs and organizations that want a space that they can meet that currently have to leave Shawtown, we can keep them in Shawtown. We can have them do their things in Shawtown. We can have Christmases, we can have Thanksgivings, we can have potlucks, we can do all of those things as a community. Some of the other things that I'm really looking forward to seeing for others, obviously a gym space. You've got to have those, and I think we'd be doing a disservice if we didn't put one in that was able to handle a higher amount of people. Storage units, something mainly catering towards our tenants, but if there's extras, I wouldn't be opposed to seeing those open up for others. We'll also have amenities though that are, things like the business areas where people can go and have meetings. We'll have areas where people can go and get a fresh coffee and just sit down and chat and congregate as a community again. Lastly, I think one of the things that I'm also really coming on to now and really seeing as a genuine need, not just something that I want to have there, is a grocery element. I think it's going to be important for the community to have the means to actually purchase some of their necessities. We're not looking at putting a big grocery store in. We're not going to bring in some 30,000 square foot grocery store. What we're talking about is a general store that has the small ones and twos and the small things that maybe you forget between grocery stops. We want to have that element there again for the residents that live on Mount Washington, but also for the community. So if there's something that you need, you don't have to get in your car and drive 5 minutes and 10 minutes away to go get it. The goal is to provide things that the community doesn't have right now. And I think the best way we can do that is continue to do what we're doing, right? We have conversation with the people, we listen to the people, and we try to take what's best for them and say, how can we do that for you? Because that's really what's needed. Yes, I do have additional help. This has been a vision, though, of my wife and I's. I think that I would be remiss to say that this would not be happening at all if it weren't for my wife. Back in April, the company that I work pretty heavily into and I run the day-to-days with had to take a step back, and we had to look at a few different ways to handle the COVID pandemic that was upon us. mean, it was not easy. I had to basically find something different. I was very fortunate, though, that the people that I worked with trusted me and believed in me and said, if you're willing to make the leap into another area, we want to leap with you. And bless my wife's heart, she was looking around on the internet and she happened to find what was the former Mount Washington residence, and she remembers a few of the former residents coming to Mayo Hospital, where she is currently a nurse, and it was very very interesting. That's back in August when we first saw it, and I'm just very thankful that she brought it to our attention, because again, it's many hands make light work, but it's even things like your wife pointed it out to you that's the biggest step, right? Like, none of this would have happened if it weren't for her. And everybody else that's involved with this from our team, whether it be the construction, the architecture, the engineering, the sprinkler systems, the security systems, it doesn't matter. Many hands are going to make light work. So we're going to do this together. We're going to do this with the community's input, and we're going to walk this hand in hand. Surprisingly, we get this question a lot. Do you have a YouTube channel? Yeah, we have a YouTube channel. We're trying to grow our following, actually. It'd be very helpful. People could, follow the link that's down here in the video. And obviously, give us a like, give us a follow. We'd really appreciate it. But all of our content is on YouTube as far as videos are concerned. All of our content is on Facebook as far as photos and videos are concerned. And then we also have an Instagram page, which is also linked here. And then the Instagram page is just raw everything. So our goal is to build that up where we can put everything on Instagram. So if people really want to dive in and see like the raw side of Mount Washington, they can find it through our Instagram account. Thank you for taking the time to do the interview. I really appreciate the ability to be a little more transparent about some of these things. And I hope the community appreciates hearing some of these answers to their own questions. It's kind of weird. The lights have been off of Mount Washington for a very long time, and we're slowly trying to turn those metaphorical lights back on, right? Like, we want to shed light on the history, we want to shed light on our plans. But I think the most important thing that we can do here is just be honest with everybody and just tell them, hey, this is why we're doing this, and this is why we're going to be changing that. It's not very often that somebody wants to tell a story without putting themselves in the story. I think Mount Washington has enough to say on its own. So hopefully through Brick by Brick, we can get that story out and people can appreciate it for how beautiful it is. And I just really appreciate everybody for tuning in and watching every week.